The Valina Prime's command deck fell silent as High Commander Tarek watched the holographic display flicker. 3-star systems had gone dark in less than 18 hours. Not communication failures or power surges, complete silence, as if they had been erased from existence. Confirm status on the Ataraxia colonies, Tarek ordered, his four-fingered hand trembling slightly as he adjusted his ceremonial collar. The weight of 5,000 years of Varellan peace suddenly felt unbearably heavy upon his shoulders. Officer Marina tapped rapidly at her console, her luminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. All outposts silent, Commander. The quantum relays show nothing but void signatures where the colonies existed. The Varellan Accord had maintained peace across the Argessa galaxy cluster for millennia. They were diplomats, scientists, philosophers, not warriors. War was a distant memory, a primitive behavior they had transcended generations ago. Their technology was built to connect worlds, not destroy them. It's the third incursion this month, Counselor Lamar said, her ancient voice carrying despite her frail frame. As the eldest member of the Varellan Elders, she had witnessed the Accord's golden age. But never this aggressive, never this coordinated. The tactical display updated with another alert. A fourth system, Nalari, had just gone silent. Tarek felt cold dread pool in his stomach. They're accelerating. Whatever the Nirval are, they're learning our patterns. The Nirval had first appeared 6 months ago, formless entities that seemed to exist between dimensions, slipping into reality through dimensional rifts. They consumed energy, matter, and, inexplicably, consciousness itself. They left nothing behind but empty space, not even debris. We need to convene the council, Tarek said finally. This is beyond containment now. 3 hours later, the Accord Council gathered in a vast crystalline chamber aboard the Valina Prime. Representatives from all 37 member species attended, either physically or through quantum projections. Faces grim, voices hushed, they listened as Tarek outlined the accelerating crisis. The Nirval are no longer merely curious visitors, he concluded. They're systematically consuming our worlds. Our standard protocols have failed. Diplomatic overtures go unanswered. They may not even perceive us as conscious beings. Counselor Valen, the military strategist, spoke up. Our defensive capabilities are limited. The Accord hasn't maintained significant military power since the Dimensional Accords. Then we must seek aid, Elder Thamar stated simply, from beyond our borders. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. The Varellan Accord had been self-sufficient for so long that requesting external help seemed almost heretical. The Centauri Alliance might respond, one counselor suggested. The Myriad Concordance has advanced dimensional technology, offered another. Elder Thamer's eyes, milky with age yet sharp with wisdom, scanned the chamber. We must cast our net wider. Send the call to all who might hear it, even to the restricted zones. The silence that followed was deafening. You cannot mean, Valen began. Yes, the Mars said firmly. Earth, the humans. Counselor Rel stood abruptly. The forbidden species? The ones who nearly tore apart local space-time during the binary wars? We sealed them away for good reason. And yet, the Mar countered, they may be the only ones who remember how to fight a war of survival. After hours of heated debate, desperation overcame fear. The signal was prepared, a quantum burst that would pierce the isolation barrier surrounding Earth's solar system, carrying with it all the data they had collected on the Nirval incursions. As the transmission was sent, Tarek gazed out at the stars visible from the council chamber's transparent dome. Some of those lights were already gone, consumed by the formless terror spreading through their realm. The Varellan had always believed in peaceful coexistence, in rational dialogue, in the inherent value of consciousness. But what happens when you face an enemy that recognizes none of these principles? They had fired their distress beacon into the void. Now, all they could do was prepare for the worst and hope for a miracle. Admiral Celine Ward was reviewing fleet deployment plans in her quarters aboard the orbital station Prometheus when the alert came. At first, The quantum sensors classified it as background radiation, until the pattern recognition systems flagged it as artificial. Admiral, her AI assistant's voice interrupted. We're receiving a signal of unknown origin. Quantum signature suggests it originated outside our containment barrier. Ward's head snapped up. In the 500 years since the binary wars, no external communication had breached the dimensional barriers erected around Sol System. Humanity had been effectively quarantined by the galactic community, imprisoned within their own corner of space for the crime of being too destructive, too unpredictable. "Authenticate and decrypt," she ordered, standing from her desk. "Priority Alpha. Secure channel only." The holographic display before her flickered to life, showing streams of alien data, star charts, quantum readings, dimensional analyses, and finally, images. Worlds being consumed by shadowy distortions in space-time itself. Entire civilizations vanishing in hours. And a clear, desperate plea for help. "Confirm source identification," Ward said quietly. "Verified, Admiral. Signal originates from the Varellan Accord, specifically their command vessel, Valina Prime. The Varellan, the very same advanced civilization that had led the coalition to contain humanity after the binary wars. The peacekeepers who had judged humanity too dangerous to join the galactic community. Now they were asking for humanity's help. Convene the Global Military Council," Ward ordered. "All members. Titan orbital 0900 hours." The irony wasn't lost on her. For centuries, humanity had rebuilt, refined, and reinvented itself. Partly in shame over the destruction they had caused, partly in stubborn defiance of those who had judged them. They had turned inward, focusing their aggressive tendencies into ruthless self-improvement. Human technology had evolved in isolation, unbounded by the conservative conventions of the galactic community. Neural interfaces that merged consciousness with quantum computing. Biological battle armor that responded to thought. Weapons that could disrupt not just matter, but consciousness itself. All developed in preparation for the day the barriers would fall, either by humanity's hand or someone else's. 12 hours later, Ward stood before the council in the Titan facility, Earth's blue crescent visible through the reinforced windows, as she finished her presentation. "This Nirval threat appears to be a multidimensional species capable of consuming matter, energy, and consciousness itself," she concluded. "The Varellan are facing extinction if we do nothing." General Ibrahim Santos, commander of the Sol Defense Force, leaned forward. "After 5 centuries of exile, we should celebrate their demise, not rescue them." "With respect, General," Ward countered, "this isn't just about the Varellan. If these Nirval continue expanding, they'll eventually reach us. Better to engage them on someone else's territory than our own." Dr. Eleni Rousseau, head of xenobiological studies, spoke next. "The data suggests these entities are drawn to concentrated consciousness. The Varellan's communal mind structure makes them particularly vulnerable." "And us?" asked Counselor Yamato. "How vulnerable are we?" "Uncertain," Rousseau admitted. "Our neural interfaces and quantum consciousness technology are different from anything in the galaxy. We've evolved along an entirely separate technological path." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had spent 5 centuries preparing for threats, building weapons that other species would consider abominations, developing technologies that blurred the line between biology and machine, between matter and energy, between reality and thought. "If we respond," Ward said, breaking the silence, "we reveal everything we've become to a galaxy that already feared us. If we succeed, we save those who imprisoned us. If we fail," Santos finished grimly, "we confirm their worst fears about us." The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Humanity would respond. Within 48 hours, the response force was assembled. 13 Cataclysm-class battleships, each housing enough firepower to destabilize a star. 4 Oblivion-class consciousness carriers, vessels containing quantum-linked neural networks capable of projecting human consciousness as a weapon, and the command ship Harrowing Light, with Admiral Ward at its helm. As the fleet prepared to depart, piercing the dimensional barrier that had contained them for centuries, Ward addressed her crew one final time. "We go to aid those who once condemned us. We go not for vengeance, nor for glory, but because we remember what they have forgotten. Sometimes survival requires sacrifice. Sometimes peace demands war. The galaxy once feared what humanity might become. Today, they will see what we have become." The fleet engaged their reality-fold drives, tearing holes in the fabric of space-time, and the observatories throughout the galaxy recorded the distortion as humanity returned to the stars. The Varellan battle cruiser Luminous Accord was the first to detect the spatial anomalies at the edge of their defensive perimeter. Captain Alera initially classified them as more near-val incursions, until the pattern emerged. These weren't chaotic dimensional breaches, but precisely calculated entry points. Multiple vessels emerging, her sensor officer reported, voice tight with tension, configuration unknown, energy signatures unprecedented. The view screen showed darkness splitting open like wounds in reality itself. From these tiers emerged ships unlike anything the Varellan had ever seen. Angular, asymmetrical vessels that seemed to shimmer between states of matter, their hulls covered in patterns that hurt the eyes to look upon directly. "Open communication channels," Nalera ordered, fighting to keep her voice steady. Before her officer could comply, all systems on the bridge flickered as an incoming transmission overrode their security protocols. "Varellan Vessel Luminous Accord," came a voice, speaking flawless Standard Galactic. "This is Admiral Celine Ward of Earth's Global Defense Fleet, commanding the Harrowing Light. We receive your distress call. We are here to render assistance." Nalera felt her blood freeze. "Earth, humans, the Forbidden Ones. Alert High Command," she whispered to her executive officer. "The humans have returned." Within hours, the Varellan command structure was in chaos. General Calithmir, hastily appointed as military commander despite centuries of peace, found himself aboard the human flagship, face-to-face with creatures of legend and nightmare. Admiral Ward was tall for a human, her dark skin bearing the subtle shimmer of neural interface nodes at her temples. Behind her stood officers in form-fitting combat suits that seemed to pulse with their heartbeats, and soldiers whose eyes glowed with an unnatural light, half biological, half quantum entities. "The Varellan Accord appreciates your response," Calithmir began stiffly, "but we cannot simply surrender command of our defense to the species you exile." Ward finished, her expression neutral. "Understandable. We're not asking for command, General. We're offering partnership." "Partnership requires trust," Calithmir replied, "and mutual understanding of strategic objectives." "Our objective is simple," Ward said. "Eliminate the near-val threat before it consumes more worlds." "What's your objective, General?" The question hung in the air between them. The Varellan had always sought peaceful resolution, coexistence, negotiation. Even now, facing extinction, Calithmir found it difficult to embrace the concept of total war. "We wish to understand the near-val," he said finally. "To communicate with them, to find a way to coexist." Ward's laugh was sharp and without humor. "They've consumed 12 of your worlds, General. There is no diplomacy with a wildfire." Before Calithmir could respond, alarms blared. A tactical officer, human, appeared at Ward's side. "Near-val breach detected, Admiral. 3 light minutes from our position. They've already consumed a Varellan patrol vessel." "Deploy Whisper Team," Ward ordered without hesitation. Full consciousness projection. Calithmir watched in confusion as several humans on the bridge settled into reclined positions, neural interfaces at their temples lighting up with cold blue fire. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "Fighting," Ward replied simply, in the only language the near-val will understand. On the tactical display, Calithmir watched as the rippling distortion that marked a near-val entity approached a small human vessel, then suddenly contracted, convulsing in ways that seemed to defy spatial physics. "Our Whisper teams project human consciousness directly into the near-val's dimensional framework," Ward explained. Your scientists were right. The Nirval feed on consciousness. But they've never encountered weaponized consciousness before. The distortion on the screen collapsed in on itself, leaving nothing behind. You destroyed it, Calithmir whispered. Completely. No, General, Ward corrected. We didn't destroy it. We shattered its mind. The news spread quickly through the galactic observation posts. Humanity had returned from exile, bringing with them weapons and technologies that defied conventional understanding. Species that had barely remembered Earth except as a cautionary tale now watched in horror and fascination as the humans engaged an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. The Varellan scientists worked alongside human specialists, sharing data and observations. Dr. Iriana, the Varellan's leading xenobiologist, made the critical breakthrough. The Nirval are drawn to concentrated consciousness, she explained to the Joint Command staff. The stronger the collective mind, the more irresistible the target. That's why they targeted our worlds first. Our species maintains a constant telepathic connection. So we're essentially broadcasting a dinner invitation, Admiral Ward observed. Yes, but your species. Iriana hesitated. Your neural technology creates a different signature altogether. Your minds are individually isolated, yet artificially connected. The Nirval seem confused by your patterns, simultaneously attracted and repelled. Commander Yerrick, head of the Human Science Division, nodded. We can use that. Create a consciousness lure, something so compelling they can't resist it. You mean bait, Calithmir said, the concept alien to his philosophical background. I mean a trap, Yerrick corrected. Our Oblivion-class vessels carry quantum-linked neural networks. We can configure one to emit a consciousness signature so powerful it would draw every Nirval within 50 light-years. And then, Iriana asked. Ward and Yerrick exchanged glances. And then we detonate a consciousness disruptor at the point of maximum Nirval concentration, Ward said quietly. The resulting quantum cascade should sever their dimensional anchors permanently. Calithmir stared at them in horror. You're proposing to destroy their entire species? They've shown no indication of communication, diplomacy, or restraint, Ward responded. They consume and move on. This isn't war, General. It's pest control. There must be another way, Calithmir insisted. If you have one, I'm listening, Ward replied. But every day we debate, more of your worlds disappear. The plan was codenamed Consciousness Extinction. The Oblivion-class vessel selected for the mission, Oblivion Aegis, would be reconfigured to emit the most powerful consciousness signature ever created, drawing the Nirval into a dimensional nexus point. Once sufficient numbers had gathered, the ship would trigger a quantum cascade within its neural core, creating a consciousness shockwave that would ripple through dimensional space. The mission required a human pilot, someone who would become one with the ship's systems, guiding it to the target zone before initiating the detonation. It was, without question, a suicide mission. Commander Ilya Voss volunteered. Voss was a contradiction, a decorated veteran who had later become an outspoken critic of military expansion. She had fought in the simulation wars within Sol System, then advocated for peaceful exploration. Now she stood before Admiral Ward, requesting the deadliest assignment in human history. Why you? Ward asked bluntly in her private quarters. Voss's gaze was steady. Because I've seen enough death to know when it's necessary. Because I understand what we're fighting. And because I've lived long enough with the knowledge that the galaxy sees us as monsters. I'd like to prove them wrong with my last act. Ward studied her. You know there's no coming back. Once the neural interface fully integrates with the Oblivion systems, you won't exist as a separate entity anymore. I know, Voss said simply. One consciousness to save billions. Seems like a fair trade. 2 days later, the plan was in motion. The Oblivion Aegis, with Voss fully integrated into its systems, departed from the fleet. Around it, a protective screen of Cataclysm battleships and Varellan cruisers maintained formation, ready to engage any Nirval that approached before the trap was fully set. In the command center of the harrowing light, Ward and Calithmir watched the operation unfold. The Aegis moved toward the dimensional tear where the highest concentration of near-val activity had been detected. Consciousness beacon activating, reported the tactical officer. Signal strength at maximum. On the displays, energy patterns shifted as the near-val responded. Distortions in space-time appeared, converging on the Aegis like predators scenting blood. "They're coming," Caliph whispered. "So many of them." Indeed, the sensors showed more near-val converging than they had ever observed in one location. Dozens, then hundreds of the dimensional entities, drawn by the irresistible signal of the Aegis's consciousness beacon. "Aegis has reached the nexus point," the tactical officer announced. Commander Voss reports optimal positioning, awaiting final authorization. Ward hesitated for just a moment, then nodded. "Give the order. Initiate consciousness extinction." The communication channel opened, revealing Voss's face, or rather, a digital approximation of it, as her actual consciousness was now fully merged with the ship's systems. "This is Oblivion Aegis," she said, her voice eerily calm. "Detonation sequence initiated. Dimensional anchors releasing." "It's been an honor, Admiral." "The honor is ours, Commander," Ward replied softly. "Godspeed." The displays showed the near-val swarming around the Aegis, drawn into its consciousness field like moths to flame. The ship's energy signature began to pulse faster and faster as the quantum cascade built within its neural core. "Energy spike," shouted the tactical officer. "Brace for dimensional shockwave." The view screen erupted in a blaze of light that seemed to fold in on itself, a singularity of consciousness that expanded outward in waves of impossible color. The surrounding near-val entities convulsed, their amorphous forms stretching and tearing as the consciousness wave passed through them. Space itself seemed to scream. At least, that's how many would later describe it. A sound that wasn't really a sound, a vibration that existed in the mind rather than the ear. Every being connected to a neural network felt it, the death cry of the near-val collective consciousness. And then, silence. Where hundreds of near-val entities had swarmed, nothing remained. Where the Oblivion Aegis had been, only empty space. No near-val, no ship, no Ilyavos. In the aftermath, the remaining near-val throughout Varellan space seemed to lose cohesion, their dimensional anchors severed by the consciousness shockwave. Within days, reports confirmed what many had hoped. The threat had been eliminated. The cost had been high. 12 Varellan worlds completely lost, billions of lives consumed. But the Accord would survive. They would rebuild. 2 weeks after the consciousness extinction event, the remaining human fleet prepared to depart. There had been no attempts to establish permanent diplomatic relations, no requests for territory or reparations for their assistance. They had come, they had fought, and now they were leaving as mysteriously as they had arrived. At the formal farewell ceremony aboard the Valina Prime, Elder Thamar presented Admiral Ward with a living crystal sculpture, a traditional Varellan honor reserved for those who had preserved their civilization. "The Accord owes humanity a debt we cannot repay," Thamar said, her ancient voice carrying through the crystalline chamber. "No debt is owed," Ward replied. "We responded to a call for aid, nothing more. And yet, you sacrificed one of your own to save a people who once imprisoned yours," Thamar observed. "Why?" Ward considered the question carefully. "Because that's what humanity does. We fight. We sacrifice. We endure. Sometimes for ourselves, sometimes for others. It's why you feared us. It's why you needed us." In the center of the Accord Council chamber, a memorial had been erected, a living crystal formation that captured the essence of Ilyavos, reconstructed from neural records transmitted before the final detonation. The sculpture seemed to shift and move as if breathing, a permanent reminder of the human who had given everything for people she had never known. As the human fleet departed, tearing their own holes in reality to return to their isolated corner of the galaxy, the Varellan and their allies watched in silence. No one tried to stop them. No one suggested reinstating the containment barriers. The galaxy had changed. The humans had changed, too. In her final address to the Accord Council, Elder Thamar summarized what many were thinking. We once feared them because they remembered how to fight. Now we respect them because they still remember how to sacrifice. Years later, the Varellan distress signal and humanity's response became the first lesson taught at the new Intergalactic Academy, an institution established to foster cooperation between all sentient species, including, for the first time in 5 centuries, representatives from Earth. The final words of the lesson echoed through the halls of learning, a reminder to all who would shape the future of the galaxy. They came, they fought, and then they left, leaving the galaxy trembling and filled with new hope. For sometimes, those the world fears most are the very ones willing to stand and fight when darkness comes. Not because they want to, but because they remember what it means.